Did you know the team to score last has won the Super Bowl each of the last 13 years? If you're looking to enhance your big game betting experience, visit wt.buzz/SB57props for WagerTalk's annual party prop sheet, Ralph Michaels' historical prop betting result and betting tips from your favorite handicapper. And if you're looking to add some wagering entertainment for your gathering, download and print out Super Bowl party prop sheet, which features a number of easy to answer, easy to follow questions to keep everyone engaged from the coin toss to the final whistle. Follow WagerTalk on Twitter during the game as we tweet out the results as they happen. Visit wt.buzz/SB57props for all the details.
Live, and it is Friday, February the 10th, last weekday before the weekend. And last chance to talk about Super Bowl 57 here on Wager Talk Today. We've been doing it all week, and we're going to continue to do it in depth today on Friday, February the 10th. I am Steve Merrill, filling in one more time for the Prez. He is on assignment. He'll be back on Monday to join my co-host Teddy covers all of next week. Teddy, you have that to look forward to after your Super Bowl hangover. In the meantime, though, we've got a loaded show for Friday. Going to get right to it, Teddy. I know we've got a lot of Super Bowl prop talk here as we hit closer to the big game this weekend.
Sure, no doubt. Obviously, the last show before the big game on Sunday. So we'll spend a lot of time talking Super Bowl and Super Bowl props. Today, we're going to start with Tony Mejia. He's going to lead us off. He's got a Dallas Goedert prop. He's going to talk Noah Gray and Jody Fortson. You don't know who those guys are? They're Kansas City tight ends who aren't named Kelsey. And we're going to talk Xavier Butler in college hoops tonight with Tony Mejia. My What Bettors Learned, we're going to talk about Super Bowl odds for next year. Take a first look at those numbers. Ralph Michaels going to join us next. He's going to talk about NBA home dog winning percentage by months. He's also going to talk about the Clippers and the Bucks tonight. Take a look in college hoops at Nevada in their Mountain West showdown game. And we'll close out the show with Andy Lang after my big game breakdown. And he's going to talk a trio of Super Bowl props, including one of those cross-sport props that everyone always likes. Talk Super Bowl with UFC. That should be a lot of fun. So, yeah, loaded edition, the last Wager Talk Today before the big game. Let's break it all down.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder, we have been talking Super Bowl props on every episode this week, and every show, of course, is archived on Wager Talk TV right here on the YouTube channel. You can also watch the shows and the archives as well on the Wager Talk TV app for your favorite mobile device. Megan Payton most recently closed the show yesterday on Thursday with several Super Bowl props. Boom, quick hitter fashion live from the Super Bowl from Radio Row. And, of course, it's appropriate to tell you that we close this week's show with the prop master, Andy Lang, here a little bit later, who specializes in props. Looking forward to that. Meantime, though, let's bring on Tony Mejia. And Tony, we're going to get to some basketball in a moment. We're going to split it up a little bit with some basketball in a minute here. But let's start with your NFL prop. And by the way, Tony is doing some serious doubleheader basketball duty today. He'll be on the college basketball show at 2 o'clock Eastern. He'll be back with the NBA show at 4:15 Eastern. And we're going to look at a Friday night game in a few minutes. But first, let's talk Super Bowl. Tony Mejia, give us a prop, something we can look at here for the big game on Sunday.
Oh, well, everybody is fixated on Travis Kelce as the top tight end in this matchup, and rightfully so. But I'm in on Dallas Goedert going over 4.5 receptions for the Philadelphia Eagles. He led Philly in receptions against San Francisco, and he's got 10 catches on 11 targets for 81 yards through the two playoff games. After missing weeks 11 through 15, he came back on Christmas Eve, early Christmas present, had 3 catches for 67 yards. That's the most yardage he's actually had since.
Well, we lost Tony again.
Targets over the last 3 weeks. And he had a huge game in Glendale in week 5, 9 catches, 95 yards, and the Eagles 20-17 win. So he's a South Dakota State Jackrabbit. They won a FCS championship this year. So all kinds of good vibes from Dallas Goedert.
Are you worried at all, Tony, that I literally haven't talked to one person that's betting Goddard under? Not a pro, not a Joe, not anyone. It feels like this is as one-sided a prop as you're going to find. Does that worry you at all?
Not really. I mean,
we lost Tony again.
It worried him enough, Teddy. Worried him enough.
Jalen Hurts not 100%. I mean,
yeah, he's freezing now. We're going to reset him. We're going to reset Tony Mejia. Just refresh real quick, Tony. We'll see if it gets a little bit better for you. Teddy,
All
your,
right.
your your thoughts overall on this prop? I know you had a follow up, but he's got a bonus prop talk as well. The other tight ends not named Kelsey to score anytime touchdown. Noah Gray at plus 800. Fortson at plus 1,000 for DraftKings. Some other prices out there as well. Your thoughts on that? Like you said, Kelsey's kind of the focus guy.
So that concept of looking at the other tight ends besides Kelsey is brilliant. I love it. It makes a ton of sense to me. And the big plus prices, look, these aren't guys that catch a lot of passes. These are guys that are mostly in there for blocking situations. But we would expect Andy Reid to be creative around the goal line. We would expect Patrick Mahomes to be able to have good vision around the goal line. And the concept of some of these long shot tight ends for KC with an anytime touchdown, I like the thought process. It makes a lot of sense to me. What about you? The Goddard one,
No, I agree.
I mean, I'm not playing Goddard under. I wouldn't play him under unless maybe an hour or two before kickoff I'd think about it, because that's when the juice is going to be as high as it gets on Goddard. And then any buyback will come in those last couple hours before kickoff. But Goddard's one of these guys. I haven't heard one person around town in the last 2 weeks say, yeah, I'm going to fade Goddard in this game. It's just all pro Goddard. And when I see that I tap the brakes on.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to be on the
it's
same
good
side
stuff,
as
Teddy,
everybody.
because I'm actually trying to find some more props to do my Fade the Public video later today on Friday for the weekend, and I want to include some prop talk. So I think I'm going to throw that in there. So I actually appreciate that insight. That I don't like it when everyone's on one side. Doesn't mean it's going to lose, right? But that is long term. We kind of want to avoid the massive group think, whether it's football, basketball, any sport. Tony, while we still have you here, let's look at college hoops real quick. Talk about Xavier Butler tonight on Friday. Once again, Tony will be back 2 Eastern on the college basketball show for more talk, and also the NBA show at 4:15 Eastern. But way out, Tony, your looks at Xavier Butler for Friday night in college hoops.
Yeah, sorry, my internet is on the fritz. I'm not really sure, but this is Sean Miller against former boss Thad Matta. Xavier looking to push its lead in the Big East to a game, and I like the under here. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than expected.
Yeah, I mean this total just from the eye test, it feels way high between two defensive-minded head coaches and certainly a Butler team that has had their fair share of struggles on the offensive end this year. Is there any case for the other side here, Tony? I mean, it feels like under or nothing. Why is the total as high as it is? We don't know. All right.
I thought he's teasing us.
Oh, sure.
I thought we had him.
I mean, I think the case for the other side, Zach Fremantle. I mean, is Xavier leads the Big East in scoring, but with Zach Fremantle out, I think that it's going to be a Butler pace, and they're at home, so they get to dictate.
Tony, while we still got you real quick, what you got going on at WagerTalk? I think you have a big 5%er, correct?
5% play tonight, a 4% college basketball package, a 5% NBA plus, where you can get all the selections. So yeah, go to my page at wt.buzz/TM. You'll see the write up on Xavier Butler, and you can do what you want.
No, I tell you what, nobody works harder than Tony Mejia, Teddy. We needed to fill in last night at 2:30 a.m. Eastern time, and I messaged him, and about 10 minutes later, I heard back from him, and then he put up the games he wanted to talk about at 6 a.m. Eastern today in our group thread. So nobody works harder than Tony Mejia. I can guarantee that. His internet cannot keep up. He's working so hard. He's probably been taxing that internet all week, handicapping and watching games. But hey, look, he'll get it fixed up. He will be back later today. You get more basketball from Tony at 2 o'clock Eastern, the college show, 4:15 Eastern on the NBA show. And Teddy, we got an extra minute or two. Real quick, I want to ask you, give me some other really one-sided public props. I need some content for the Fade the Public video this afternoon, and the Goddard one was good info. Anything else that's jumped out to you where everyone seems to be a lot of groupthink on one side?
You seen anyone playing Mahomes under? You seen anyone playing Miles Sanders under?
Well, I mean, Mahomes obviously got the injury concern, right? But it looks like he's healthy. But that'd be the only reason I'd say maybe people are staying off of Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes over yardage has been pounded. Sanders over everything has been pounded. Now, Sanders is one I wouldn't go against. That's one that makes a ton of sense to me. Sure. Mahomes, there's the passing yardage. If you want to bet the other way, you wait until a couple hours before tip-off and get on board. We will see some buyback on a lot of these, in the last few hours. But Sunday morning, you wake up, anything you want to play contrarian, that's the time to do it.
Have you seen any props, Teddy, in which there's under action? Because in general, we talk about this with Andy Lang, that 90% all year long seems to be over action on any prop. Any under props in which, not necessarily the sharps, but where you think the public might be coming in on it as well?
Nothing's jumping off the top of my head. Under punch,
not
the
for
sharps
me either. That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
But I mean, bettors are really hoping that it's not what was that 13-3 Super Bowl a couple of years ago that every single player on both teams stayed under in every category. I mean, that was a bonanza for the bookmakers because all the over money came in, and obviously in a Super Bowl that finishes, so it was 13-3. Was that? Yeah, that was the final. Like every single prop went under. The books made a fortune that day. I'm not anticipating this game to be quite that low scoring.
Yeah, and once again, we had the Belichick Brady factor. Don't forget in that game that we've talked so much about this week. Obviously the Rams were an inexperienced team coming into that game. That was Super Bowl 53. But still, there was almost not a touchdown scored in that game, which really is insane in hindsight. In the modern era, within the last few years, not to have a touchdown almost in a game. I mean, I've seen those props over the years at like 50 to 1, 100 to 1. When they have the first touchdown score, there'll be no touchdown. And we almost got that a few years ago. I'll ask you one more final question, and then we'll move on to some What's Better's Learn stuff also. But if you see a surprise in this game, like, for example, only one touchdown scored, that 13-3 game, I mean, where do you think something could be really surprising in this game overall?
I think it's going to be a low possession game. I'm not anticipating one of these games where they're making big plays up and down the field. So my handicap and the props that I've picked for my clients for this weekend have that as my prevailing thought process. Is this is not going to be a game where both teams get 13, 14, 15 possessions. Much more likely to be in the 8 or 9 possession category. So I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for, but that's my overall thought process. I think Philly wants to keep the ball on the ground and grind out yardage and clock that way. And I think Kansas City all year, it hasn't been a quick strike. This isn't a Tyreek Hill offense. They have long, maintained, ball control drives. So I think both teams are going to be grinding clock, which is a problem.
It's important.
Which is a big part of the reason why the under 7.5 punts has been pounded as hard.
Correct. And once again, if you missed Teddy's analysis on that, I believe it was yesterday, Thursday's big game breakdown was the punt prop. So go back once again, watch that here on WagerTalk TV. Monday through Thursday shows have prop action that we haven't talked about today on Friday. Teddy, Arizona, you said the rooms are going for like 50 grand a week. You're going to rent your house out next year, this time of year, and make some money on a B&B. Vegas, baby, 1 year from now. Do we dare do the meet and greet then also? I mean, it's going to be crazy this time of year next year in Vegas.
No, you wouldn't have it for Super Bowl. I mean, because you can't get rooms. I shouldn't say you can't get rooms. You can get rooms. You just have to pay for rooms. The stories coming out of Arizona are insane in terms of like what I live maybe 3 miles from Allegiant Stadium, maybe, I don't know, give or take, and they're saying you can get like 50 grand to rent your house out for a week. You got to think about that, man. You do next year in Vegas, but Radio Row here in town. I think the cappers will come in. I think it'd be great to work Radio Row. The NBA All-Star Game was kind of too much for Vegas. That was a long time ago. That's the biggest crowd of sporting people that I've seen come to town yet. But it's going to be fun. Now, look, this is our betting holiday. One day a year, we get to celebrate betting on center. Betting's on center stage. Literally on center stage. Betting is the story for Super Bowl. Enjoy it. That said, I have to give this message. It's important. Super Bowl weekend is a dangerous weekend for beginning bettors, for casual bettors. Keep your unit sizes small. Merrill always says it. Diversify your portfolio. And for the love of God, don't be live betting while drinking. Don't be chasing first half losses in the second half. Enjoy the game. Bet with your head. Don't bet over it. This can be a very dangerous day. For as much as we love the Super Bowl, I see more bankrolls get blown on this day than any other. People who love betting and all of a sudden they're out of the game. So it's important for me to give this message today. Don't bet while drinking. Keep your unit sizes small and enjoy the game. And I can't wait for next year in Las Vegas. Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one difference between Arizona and Vegas is that there's a lot more hotel rooms, so the B&Bs might not go for as much, but it's an interesting concept, and it'll be crazy out there. And the drinking while live betting, Teddy, is such an excellent point. I've talked a lot about the correlated props. If you have the same premise on the game and you have 5 or 6 players going over and receiving yards or rushing yards, and you're going to probably need a high-scoring game. I'd never thought about the in-game betting because that's something that's so new within the last 2 to 3 years, really, since I've been doing this for 25 years. And people maybe drink on a Sunday afternoon, but probably not much at 1 o'clock Eastern watching games. Super Bowl party is a different story. That's such an excellent point. Not something I thought about. And something else, I'm going to share that in my Fade the Public NFL video this week. And Teddy Cover is getting a lot of shout outs in the Fade the Public video this weekend, but that's an excellent point and not something I've ever mentioned.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm trying. It's a look, this is a sports center for gamblers. It's our job to give every little bit of knowledge that we can to make sure our facts are correct. Our opinions, sometimes they're going to be right, sometimes they're going to be wrong. When it comes to broader betting strategy, we got to be right. That's our job. Hopefully, we're able to give you some right information in that regard today.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, also don't forget, blow your whole bankroll in the Super Bowl. Don't be like, oh, I don't have any football for 8 months, right? It doesn't matter. I'll build it back. You're missing opportunities to make money in basketball. And I'll bring on Ralph Michaels. And I say that because Ralph, honestly, over the last 30 years, I think you've been as good, if not the best college basketball handicapper on the planet. The Pin, Stat Daddy, Ralph Michaels. He's been doing this for a while. He's gotten numerous nicknames, but he's earned them. And, Ralph, I honestly feel like February is maybe the best time of the month to be betting college hoops. So if people blow their bankroll on the Super Bowl and then just sit out the rest of the spring, they're really missing an opportunity. Of course, March Madness is probably the second big betting holiday, and that's coming up in just a month. Ralph, any other Super Bowl betting tips before we get to some charts and data?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think Super Bowl is a time to even live bet. You just enjoy the game. And why doesn't everyone have a big side in total? I say this to my customers, not only for the Super Bowl, but for an isolated game. Let's say a Monday or a Thursday game in the NFL. If this game was played on a Sunday, would it be one of my top 3 plays among a normal 16-game card? If it is, I'm going to bet it. Obviously, the Super Bowl is different. Listen, I played 6 props. I might play a little bit more. And I'll throw one bit of advice. If you can find multiple places that have yes and no Super Bowl props, there's a lot of sharps that just bet every player no. Yes, Kelsey may hit, but he's not going to be big odds. If you can get a bunch of no outs and bet all the no's on Super Bowl props, there's sometimes you can find advantages to will that player score a TD? If you can get enough no's to bet, it can boost your bankroll quite a bit.
Especially if you like the under in the game.
Yeah.
If you're expecting I'm expecting a low possession game. I don't know if it's going to be a low scoring game, because I think both teams have the capacity to score touchdowns in their possessions. But in a low possession game, conceptually, playing a lot of these no touchdown makes sense. There's dumber, better strategies
Teddy,
than that one, Ralph.
Then let me ask you this. I think DraftKings there will be 8.5 scoring drives combined between the teams. So then with your logic, is that a clear underplay?
I like the punts under more than the scoring drives under. These are two offenses I respect. These are two teams that are going to put up points when all is said and done. So while I'm expecting a low possession game, that doesn't necessarily. I could only play that under, but it's not a prop that I target.
And Ralph, I want to remind people too that you have a great Super Bowl prop results sheet for free on WagerTalk.com. It's on your page right now, Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. It's got all the results for the last 13 years. And Ralph, we're going to look at some Super Bowl square info at the end of the segment here. We're going to get to the NBA in a moment too, some basketball talk. But quickly, I talked about this the other day when I was looking at the sheet earlier this week. The one that really jumps out to me, 2 things jumped out to me. The last 13 years, team that won the toss has deferred every single time the last 12 years. The only time they didn't was 13 years ago, and it was Megan Payton's own Sean Payton, who ended up doing an onside kick at halftime, which you got to make it wonder if he already had that in the back of his mind. I'm sure he did, so he wanted to receive first. And then the other one that's really fascinating is the team that scores last wins the game. That's now, Ralph, 13 straight Super Bowls. And obviously we've had some competitive games in recent years compared to 2 decades ago. But what else jumped out to you as far as recent prop results? I thought those 2 were interesting.
Well, shortest TDs, people say 1.5 and they think in their mind. Shortest TDs has hit 6 out of the last 7 years. Why? You have pass interference. You have teams driving down to the 1. You have teams starting to run the ball. So under 1.5 yards for the shortest touchdown has hit 6 out of 7 and 7 out of 10. That to me is the one. Scoring the first 6 minutes of the game has been a no 5 straight years. So it's been a slow transition. Teams have had a feeling out period. And I will say this, I think that the deferred, I don't think we'll see a coach take the ball in the Super Bowl moving forward because you have such a long, extended 40-minute halftime. When you have a better coordinator group, they have all that time to make the adjustments. So you getting
Good
the
point.
ball in the second half with that long halftime for the adjustments, again, you can't bet the deferred, but that's clearly the logic for the last 12 Super Bowls when that team has won the coin toss as deferred.
Yeah, it's great insight from Ralph Michaels. On wagertalk.com, you can find this prop sheet. It's on Ralph's page. Go to Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com, get all the results for the last 13 years of props. And don't forget also, click on the news, the Wager Talk news button at the top of wagertalk.com for the free Super Bowl prop sheet. Numerous props that you can do, mostly 50-50 props, a lot of fun at your Super Bowl party, and kid-friendly. It is a kid-friendly prop sheet. We use it as well in the Merrill household. Ralph Michaels, before we get to some more Super Bowl square talk, which we haven't done all week, I want to close out with that. Let's look a little NBA real quick. We talked some college hoops with Tony Mejia. Let's talk a little bit of NBA with you. And something that always intrigues me is when you have a good team catching points and a winning home team catching points in the NBA. Doesn't happen often, but is it a play on or play against spot winning home dogs in the NBA over the last 5 years or so?
Well, guys, everyone that watches knows that I do a TNA segment with Kelly Stewart on Betting It for Football. I've been doing a TNA segment for Hoops with Megan on Wager Talk Last Call on Thursdays. So this was a question on Twitter at CalSportsLV. How do winning NBA home dogs do? So a winning record means this. It's a win percentage over 50%. So you could be 4-3, you could be 14-13, or you could be 20-10, just one game over. So I broke it down by month. And this is why I love talking to you two, because Teddy's going to come out and say, well, does that pass the Teddy covers test? And that's always what I'm excited to hear. So if we could see the chart, when I break down NBA home dogs with a winning record since 2017, in September, October, and November, those 3 years combined, we see that home dogs with a winning record have covered 56.7%. When we get after the first portion of the season, January, February, March, and April in the regular season, winning teams that are a home dog have covered 42.8%. That's remarkable to me. Now, early in the year, you may have some fake away favorites, and we don't know how teams gel. But later in the year, it shows that when you have a hot team or the away team that is the stronger team, obviously the home team has been in a funk, has some injuries, or something's occurred. But clearly, away favorites versus a winning NBA team has been a positive. And I'm going to take it one step further. I don't have a chart with this, but in my mind, when I'm giving you guys this charts, Teddy's going to say, but Ralph, how about this? So I wanted to have a response to that before we even get to Teddy. Teddy, I did look at how teams with a win percentage of 60% or higher do from January on. We see that a team with a winner percentage is 42%. But I will say this, the last 6 years, even teams that have a win percentage of 60% or higher have only gone 34-41, 45.3%. So it holds on for teams that have a slight win percentage, and it holds out for teams that have a significant win percentage as well.
So, Ralph, this is a brilliant chart. It is something I haven't talked about or thought about necessarily the same way before. And as soon as you posted it and I started looking at the numbers, I'm like, this makes total sense. How come I never thought of this? Yes, it makes sense. And it should be that way. Earlier in the year, the betting markets, when it comes to NBA power rating, there's still a large adjustment period. You see pretty dramatic power rating moves in October, November, into December. Once you get over the back half of the year, the power, I'm not going to call them cemented, but they move a lot slower. And when you have the elite teams that are starting to roll, because the only reason the winning teams are home dogs is because they're playing the elite teams. It says over the back half of the campaign, when the elite teams are starting to roll, pay attention and don't step in front of those teams. That, to me, is what this chart says, and it makes a ton of sense. And it's something I'll be paying attention to. Steve?
Yeah, and Ralph, obviously with the early season, like you said, a team could be 4-3 and qualify as a winning home dog. So you can't put much stock into the October and November numbers for that reason as well. So it's much more important to see how the January, February, March numbers are doing, because then we really know who the winning teams are. So the fact that it tails off with more of a sample size in season games is very important as well. Ralph, I want to get to some Super Bowl square info here in a little, but we got a couple games we're going to cover real quick. By the way, Ralph will be on the NBA tip-off show at 4:15 Eastern with Tony Mejia and Andy Lang, who's coming on next. So we got a triple play here of NBA cappers. Give me something we can look at tonight in the NBA, maybe the late game between the Bucks and Clippers, if you have something.
Yeah, I do enough shows with Drew Martin to say this is clearly a degenerate special. Both games starting after 10:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to have two plays. I'll run through them quick so we can save time for Andy. I have two plays at WagerTalk today: an NBA play, a college basketball play. You're getting them here both for free. The first is Milwaukee and the Clippers under 227. Listen, this is the home road dichotomy total game of the year. Milwaukee is one game away from being the best under road team. They're 8-19 over under on the road. They're 5-17 over under on the road with a total under 130, a total under 231. And they're 1-5 over under with no rest. Plus, they have a defense allowing 42% their last 5 games. The Clippers at home, 5 overs, 20 unders, and a push. And if you exclude when the Clippers are a big home favorite of 9 or more, they are 3-18 over under at home. So game 575, 576, Milwaukee Clippers under. And my play in college basketball, the Nevada Wolfpack, game 894. Teddy, I was on with you last week, and we were talking about Nevada coming off an upset of San Diego State and how they were a better team against Air Force. And what did they do? They won by 20. They've impressed me. So now they're coming off another win. They're placing Fresno State -9. Yes, Fresno State's off back-to-back wins, but to me, that's an anomaly. They're the worst offense in the Mountain West. They shot over 50% 2 games ago. They shot 48% last game. That's only the fourth time in 20 games where they topped 47% shooting. Nevada, one of the strongest home courts. Fresno State just 4-9 on the road, scoring 62 points per game. The Nevada Wolfpack -9. I believe it climbed to 9.5 now. That's game 894.
Look at the Wolfpack at the Lawler Center in Reno tonight. Ralph Michaels, I want to ask you about that Bucks Clippers total. I'll give you one follow here before we move on to the squares chart, which was another interesting one that's worth paying attention to. But here's the question, Ralph. The Clips, big movers at the trade deadline. This has been a slow-paced team. They've been a defensive-minded team. Certainly Milwaukee's elite on the defensive end. But post-trade deadline, when you have a team like LA that just made a handful of, their rotations are going to be well out of sync, I would think, for, between now and then the All-Star break. Do you worry at all that the defensive rotations aren't going to be there? Because both these teams have plenty of shooters. If the rotations aren't there, the Bucks can light up the scoreboard.
Yeah, but I think we're better if the Bucks pull away a little bit because Giannis has had the ankle injury. It hasn't affected him at all, but he's always listed. Because it's the back-to-back days for the Bucks, they've slowed their pace down in the second of back-to-back games with no rest. Now, obviously, you're playing the Lakers and the Clippers. You're staying at the same hotel. You're staying at the same venue. So it's not quite like you're traveling, but you're still in that situation now of playing back-to-back games. I do look at it, but it's also this. You said it best. The Clippers play slow-paced. They still have the defensive mentality. And I think the new players to try to fit in have to have that mindset. So, again, not a 5%, not even a 4%, but I think that the home road dynamics and the coaching styles for these two teams still lend to the under in this play.
He's Ralph Michaels. He's the stat daddy, the pin, but I call him the human database. That's his third nickname, and it's well-deserved. And speaking of data, we haven't talked Super Bowl squares. We talk about live betting, props, and everything, but maybe the most popular bet of all for the Super Bowl, and especially from a recreational bettors, is the squares. And let's get right to the numbers and the charts. Any advice when doing your Super Bowl squares? Now, I will say this disclaimer, Ralph. You do not pick your own numbers because there are certain numbers that are a lot better. Make sure, and this is betting 101, that whoever's running this contest is doing a random entry as far as who gets the squares. You should have a random draw. They fill them in after what everyone's filled them in. But anyway, what are the squares that you hope to get this weekend?
Again, this is just fun, guys. This has nothing to do with gambling. this is actually has nothing to do with betting. This is just straight out gambling. So you pull out squares, you get numbers. There's people that are happy. Oh, I want sevens, I want threes, I want zeros. And then you look at it. But, I did the last 12 years. I broke it down which sets of numbers have hit back to back. The surprising thing is this: 7-7 has not hit since February 1st, 2009. It's been 15 years since 7-7 hits. So I hear a lot of people, oh my God, I got 7-7. Well, it hasn't hit. So I just went through the last 12 years, gave you the finals, first, second, and third quarter. This is on my Twitter, @CalSportsLV, as is the Super Bowl prop shop. But only two sets of numbers have hit more than twice in the last 12 years. 0-0 has hit 6 times. You'll see that 4 times was the first quarter, once in the second, once in the third. And NFC 7, AFC 3 has occurred 3 times. So don't be too depressed if you're not getting the numbers you want. There's been a lot of weird combinations. This is more just to give a ray of hope for those people that have maybe an 8-4 that was a final in the Super Bowl, and a 4-8 was a final in the Super Bowl once. So you ask most people, do you want a 4-8 combination? They're going to say no. Yet it's hit a couple times.
So what surprises me about the chart here is how many ones there are and how many 8s there are. Because those aren't numbers that we're normally like, oh, I'm excited, I got a 1 and I got an 8. There are a lot of them in both the 1s and the 8s. And the 5s don't hit, huh? The 5s and the 6s are pretty well. Those are your dead numbers. 9s aren't real good either.
Yeah, you get a 5-5, then you could just throw it up and not even worry about it. And Teddy, it's this. The 1s and 8s are obviously when you get to 21 and 28. So you're in play, with touchdowns. You don't see the 1s and 8s hit in the first quarter. On the left chart, you'll see the first quarter results. Obviously, if I had a choice, I would take 0-0 because of the way it hit. I would take 7-3. That would be my second option. But we'll see. Like I said, nothing you can do with this except have fun, take a look, see what numbers have hit, maybe give you a little bit of hope, and hopefully it brings you some luck this Sunday hitting that big square.
I love it. It's Ralph Michaels. He's the best. And once again, @CalSportsLV is a great Twitter follow. He puts all these datas and charts on his Twitter page, and also you can get it on his WagerTalk page, Ralph. What else you got going on? We'll see you again at 4:15 Eastern, but what else you got going on at WagerTalk.com?
That's it. I have my Super Bowl package loaded. Only a 3% play and have some props. Not going to force the issue. I gave you both of my plays today, so check me out on Saturday. Hopefully we go 2-0 for you today. Have a very safe and happy holiday weekend. I say holiday, but Super Bowl weekend. As Teddy said, it is a holiday. And Steve, as you were talking earlier, I did look this up. Teddy and Steve, Phoenix has 69,000 hotel rooms. Vegas is over 150,000, so we will have nowhere near the bed and breakfast prices. Plus, in Vegas, it's illegal to do the bed and breakfasts, where in Phoenix it's legal. So quite a different scenario for next year.
Interesting. The database has real estate info. I'll have to hit you up on that, Ralph, because that's in my neck of the woods as well. I love a little real estate talk. I love it. The walking database, the realtor. It's a fourth nickname.
I wanted to rent my house for $50,000 for a week. I'm like, that's worth it. That's even if they trash it, it's
yourself,
worth it.
Teddy. You've incriminated yourself on live TV now that you're going to break all the ordinances in Clark Kent County. All right. We'll be back here with Ralph at 4:15 Eastern for more NBA talk. And Teddy, we're going to have Andy Lang, the prop master, in a few minutes. But first, 30-second commercial, and then I want a big game breakdown, Super Bowl style from you, Teddy Covers.
Did you know the team to score last has won the Super Bowl each of the last 13 years? If you're looking to enhance your big game betting experience, visit wt.buzz/SB57props for WagerTalk's annual party prop sheet, Ralph Michaels' historical prop betting result and betting tips from your favorite handicappers. And if you're looking to add some wagering entertainment for your gathering, download and print out Super Bowl party prop sheet, which features a number of easy to answer, easy to follow questions to keep everyone engaged from the coin toss to the final whistle. Follow WagerTalk on Twitter during the game as we tweet out the results as they happen. Visit wt.buzz/SB57props for all the details.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Obviously, the Super Bowl is this Sunday. I want to talk about the Super Bowl for next year, fun purposes only, but we have odds available for Super Bowl, 58 in 2024. I thought it'd be interesting to look at right now before this game is played. And look, this is fun purposes only. There's only one reason you'd want to bet one of these now. Only one reason. That's when the odds aren't going to be there in 3 months or 6 months or whenever, for that matter. So I'm not betting any favorites here. What I'm looking for on this, and look, this is just one global book. By Monday, you'll see basically Super Bowl odds for next year everywhere. So not that this book has the only numbers. There will be alternative numbers, but this is the general range you're going to see these teams. I'm never betting a favorite here. I'm never looking to bet a favorite here. Why let the books hold your money for a year? You're betting a favorite. You're looking for a team. What I'm looking for specifically is teams that I would say are one player away, a quarterback away from being legit contenders. So the Jets are on that list. The Broncos, if they can get something out of Russell Wilson on that list, they're both 25-1. The Dolphins already have a quarterback, 28-1. I thought those three were live in that regard as longer shots. Jets, Broncos, Dolphins. Just first thoughts. They're all in the wrong conference, though. AFC is so much tougher. The NFC is not. Who's live as long shots in the NFC? There's not that much. Unlike the Lions at 33-1, maybe the Bears at 75-1. They've got salary cap room. It'd be interesting to see what Chicago does this offseason. I think 75-1, there's an overlay there on Chicago. But look, San Fran's probably the right choice, and I ain't betting at 8-1 this far out. Interesting to talk about. Nothing to bet seriously. But like I said, we will see these numbers popping up everywhere over the course of the next, 72, 96 hours. Fun purposes only. It's interesting to consider. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Yeah, once again, next year's Super Bowl will, of course, be Las Vegas, Nevada. So the Raiders are the first one I looked at real quick at 25-1, as they would have a slight home advantage for what it's worth. But they also could be, a quarterback away from being pretty good. But it looks like Brady is retiring for the second time, so they're not going to be getting the GOAT. And Tampa, by the way, down on that list, 50-1. I think they need more than just a quarterback, but also Belichick. To see the Patriots at 55-1 on any list, or the Packers, at 33-1, or the Rams, who won the Super Bowl most recently just a couple years ago, or actually the defending world champs as of now, still at 33-1 is interesting. But yeah, you're right, Teddy. Big picture, futures don't have a lot of value because, first of all, they hold your money for a year, and second of all, there's a pretty good house edge built in. So once again, unless you're looking for a long shot, I'd recommend holding off on these.
Yeah, and the Raiders are not just a quarterback away, in my opinion.
It's also debatable how much home field advantage they have, Teddy, as well, correct?
They certainly, they have one of the lesser home field edges in football, right? Because every opponent, their fans fly to Vegas and buy tickets. Correct. They don't get the huge pro Raiders crowd because opposing fans are always in that venue in bunches.
Fun to talk about, though, and that's next year's Super Bowl odds a year from now. And Andy Lang, the prop master, we talked about diversifying your prop portfolio, and it's never more important than on Super Bowl Sunday. But Andy's a great guy to have every day of the year for your wagering needs, because he really covers sports that Teddy and I aren't covering as far as a prop perspective. And Andy, this is your time of year, obviously, to say the least. It's your Super Bowl for props, no pun intended. And let's get right to it. What's something you're looking at here for the big game?
Yeah, obviously it's a super busy week, and I thought you guys did a really good job of saying don't go crazy on this is just one game. How many times do we, handicap how many games on Sunday? And, we only have like 2 or 3 plays that come out of that. So it's kind of silly to say, well, we have one game and now I have 12 plays. Like, no, it's a little difficult. So yeah, here's this first one is just kind of a gut feeling. I wouldn't go big on this one, but look at Isaiah Pacheco over 15.5 receiving yards. You guys mentioned players to play under. I might look at Pacheco under his rushing yards, but I like him in this receiving yards role. Not a huge sample size, but last week it was really good. He had 6 targets and 5 catches for 59 yards. This was, of course, with Patrick Mahomes, a little bit on the hobbled ankle, and they went to a much more shorter passing attack, a lot of dink and dunks, and this 15.5 number, he's gone over it in the second half of the season a lot more. I I see games with 17 yards, 23 yards, 18, 32. It's just low enough that a guy like him can get over this with one catch. He had an 18-yard catch against the Bengals. And if you find that they're going to be having a tough time running the ball, maybe look for Pacheco to get involved in the pass game just a little bit more. It looks like he has the complete faith of the coaching staff and the quarterback. And again, catching 5 out of his 6 targets against Cincinnati certainly would lead me to believe that he is, they trust him in the short game. So I might look at Pacheco over 15 and a half receiving yards. Next prop I'm looking at, don't ignore those defensive props. And this guy, Chris Jones, his over sacks total has been absolutely money. I got a shout out to my buddy Jim. I met him through WagerTalk, and he was kind of struggling at some points where he was like, I have way too many bets going. And I said, just simplify it. And so he just found this niche where he got really, really good at sack props. And Chris Jones has been one that he has made a killing on, and I'm so proud of him because he's really increased his bankroll by keeping it simple, finding his niche. And so Chris Jones, I mean, look at this guy, 2 sacks against the Bengals and an incredible run to end the season. And you only need over 0.25 sacks to cash this at a fair price. He had 2.5 sacks against the Raiders, and then he had at least 1 sack against Denver, twice, Seattle. He cashed this in 8 out of the last 9 games in the regular season. And Philadelphia has a great offensive line, but they allowed the 10th most sacks at 44 in the NFL. So Chris Jones is a monster. He's really, really tough to block. We only need him to be involved in one of these sack plays to cash the over. So I would look at defensive props. Don't ignore those. And then we'll do a little cross-sport parlay here. We'll do a UFC fighter and an alt line on a receiver that I like. We'll start with Zubera Tukagov. He's fighting a kind of a short notice regional fighter named Elvis Brenner, who's not very good. Tukagov is going to be better everywhere, especially on the feet. Brenner may try some takedowns, but they're going to get stuffed. He doesn't have the cardio to keep up. This is a pretty juicy match at like minus 500 on different books. But I'm going to parlay this with Devontae Smith over 50 plus receiving. This is his alt line. His regular line is about 62.5. And what I like about Devontae Smith is how he's really picked it up towards the end of the season. Here's his receiving totals to end the year: 78, 50, 102, 64, 126, 113, 115, 67. He had 61 yards against the Giants. Obviously, the crazy game against San Francisco, passing game wasn't needed. He only had 36. I'm with you, Teddy. I think we see kind of some long, drawn-out possessions. He averages 12 yards a catch, and they've got his prop receiving total around 4.5 or 5.5. So if he gets this 5 to 6, and he's averaging that 12.5 yards like he's done all year, I think he goes over. But I want to take the alt line at 50 plus and combine that with this UFC fighter as a cross-sport parlay.
So I got 2 follows for you here on each of the first 2 props you were asking about, Pacheco and Jones. With Pacheco, we had Rob Vino on talking about how he likes McKinnon over his receptions, over 2.5 receptions. I forget if it came on earlier this week or last week when he said that. We have Edward Zalari returning for Kansas City this week. And now we like Pacheco over in receiving yards. The Chiefs have all of these backs. Everyone likes everyone over. Are we concerned about the fact that KC everything will get diluted because there'll be different backs that are going to be getting the opportunities, not 1 or 2 backs getting all the opportunities?
I would wonder action there, Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a Super Bowl, coming off of an injury and, rusty. And I wonder if this was kind of just more of a transactional thing because they put Mecole Hardman on IR and they bring Helaire back. I'm not really worried too much about Helaire, but I do know what you're saying in that, yeah, everything could get. I think this number is too low, and I'm not focusing on these big names. Like I think Travis Kelce's numbers could come in under because of the diluted. So I'm staying away from like AJ Brown and some of these big names. So I agree with you, Teddy, that it's going to from all wins and possessors. That's why I'm focusing on some of these lower numbers. I think Pacheco's numbers too low receiving, but I got to tell you, I would not play his over rushing 26 yards rushing last week against the Bengals. So I don't expect him to go over his rushing, but I'll take a little stab at him receiving.
So the other follow I had for you about Chris Jones, I was reading a couple of articles this morning talking about how a flu bug is in the Kansas City locker room, and Chris Jones in particular was a player that was singled out as dealing with flu issues yesterday. Is that a concern? I know that I didn't see that on ESPN. I haven't seen that widely reported, but I saw it from a couple of different beat writers that were saying, and the quotes from Chris Jones were, "Yeah, I'm not feeling right." Concern?
No, it would take 14 horses to take Chris Jones off that field. Once the adrenaline and the IV and everything, I think he comes out and plays 100%. And I know what you're saying. You're not saying he's not going to play. You're saying, can he give 100%? Can they double team him and take him out of the game? It's Super Bowl Sunday. If this was like a regular season game against the Texans, maybe he doesn't go all out. But I don't know. He's been a huge moneymaker all year. I'm going to keep going with him. So if I get bitten by the flu bug, as does he, then so be it. But I still like him to go over.
It's Andy Lang, the prop master, WagerTalk.com. And by the way, as we head towards the big game, guys, we have seen a little bit of money coming on the under. It's been, up from 50.5 up to that key number of 51 the last few days. But some of the leading international books are now 50.5, 51 to the under for what it's worth. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, a Jones injury would not help that. And right as I said that, honestly, 2 seconds ago, the WagerTalk live odds screen, the South Point just went to 51.5. So we have literally a 50.5 international, a 51.5 at the South Point, who's usually, I don't want to say the sharper, they have a little bit more recreational public action. So that's interesting for what it's worth. Keep an eye on the WagerTalk live odds screen all weekend long to see where the Super Bowl odds are going. And Andy, I'm actually going to guest host the NBA show. So we'll have Tony Mejia, Ralph Michaels, Andy Lang, and myself. So it's basically Wager Talk Today, part 2 at 4:15 Eastern. Andy, what you got going on for Friday and this weekend at WagerTalk.com?
Well, the biggest thing I have is the 5% play on the Super Bowl. We put that up a couple days after the lines came out, and we are 20-8 on NFL 5% plays. It's been a huge source of money making for the bankrolls this season, and we weren't going to force anything. And then we saw a number and a line that we just thought, yeah, that's a 5% play. So we do have that up. It comes with all the props. We don't have a ton of them. We've got a couple of them up there, a couple novelty props, but it's not going to be a huge package with tons of plays, but we were very selective, and of course the 5% play has been the best thing going for us NFL season. So 5% play, we're 20-8, hoping to get win number 21 this season on the 5% plays.
And real quick before we let you go, we have to have the last thing before the big game be a novelty prop. Gronk, is he going to make the kick of destiny? Will Rihanna show cleavage? Give me something.
Okay, woo. Get the photo ready, guys, if you have it. So yeah, I think Gronk hits the kick of destiny. It's a 25-yard field goal. It's actually not that difficult because there's not going to be a snap and a hold and defense coming after you. And this is Gronk. He's not going to go out there and make a fool of himself. This is the third quarter FanDuel promo kick of destiny. All he has to do is hit a 25-yard field goal. He's been working with Vinatieri. So I take yes for sure that Gronk is going to make the kick of destiny. And then Rihanna, we nailed the Mickey Guyton will not show cleavage during the national anthem last year. And this is very researchable. And this is, Teddy, this is the bingo card free play. Yes, Rihanna will show cleavage. This is the promo that she cut for the Super Bowl. This is at the 10-second mark. Does this look like a woman that is not going to show cleavage during her performance? This is a woman that did the song S&M. That was one of her biggest hits. Her last live televised performance was the 2018 Grammys, and yes, the girls were out to play. Rihanna is a very, very fun, awesome performer, and the books are saying she just has to show cleavage once during the Super Bowl, so halftime show. So yes, this is absolutely going to hit. That Rihanna will show cleavage, and Gronk will hit the kick of destiny.
And pretty sure the cleavage bet, Teddy, will not be allowed in Nevada, just like the national anthem. We talked about that yesterday because there's probably some technicalities on exactly what cleavage is. Andy Lang knows cleavage. He's did a college thesis on it back in the day. So he could grade this prop for all at the sports book. Be interesting to see, by the way, if FanDuel has odds. Andy, real quick, does any legal book have odds on Gronk? Does FanDuel have bettable odds on that? I guess that's a conflict.
I would say FanDuel probably would not have that up. That would be since
the more I thought about that, I realized
is the partner of it. I would say probably not. No, I doubt any of the domestics will have that up. I saw it on a couple of the other sports books, and it's a fun one. Again, you can't even bet that much on it, so this is not something that you can go crazy on. They put them up, for fun. So again, these are for fun, but I do think they hit. So. Go ahead and sprinkle
those. For entertainment purposes only. By the way, I do really like the Gronk one. He's too much of an athlete, and he's been practicing. It's basically, if it's on a tee, I could toe it. Andy was a soccer player. I know he could do it, but I could toe a kick probably 25 yards. I used to do that in my backyard, and I'm terrible when it comes to kicking things. Andy Lang, the prop master, he'll be back at 4:15 Eastern on the NBA Tip-Off Show. And don't forget, we also have the college basketball show here in about an hour at 2 o'clock Eastern. I'm actually going over right now, Teddy, to do J Money NBA Talks on J Money Talks on NBA YouTube, and I'll be doing that segment. That'll be archived as well. It'll be on my Twitter handle, Steve Merrill, 2R's, 1L. And don't forget, Super Bowl weekend edition of the Fade the Public video will be live tonight on Friday. Also, my top 25 college basketball video. Hit subscribe, hit the bell for instant alerts when all these shows and videos go live every day on WagerTalk TV. Like and comment below. Leave us some comments. It's the last day. It's a Prez free zone. You're safe to comment below and let us know your favorite Super Bowl props as well. Teddy, enjoy the big game on Sunday. Get some rest, and Lawrence will be back on Monday. Take us home.
Get some rest. Yeah. We'll rest when we're dead. It's all good. Bottom line is, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang out with us here on Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon for you back east. Between now and our next show, enjoy the games and best of luck with all your wagers. Cheers.
Did you know the team to score last has won the Super Bowl each of the last 13 years? If you're looking to enhance your big game betting experience, visit wt.buzz/SB57props for WagerTalk's annual party prop sheet, Ralph Michaels' historical prop betting result and betting tips from your favorite handicappers. And if you're looking to add some wagering entertainment for your gathering, download and print out Super Bowl party prop sheet, which features a number of easy to answer, easy to follow questions to keep everyone engaged from the coin toss to the final whistle. Follow Wager Talk on Twitter during the game as we tweet out the results as they happen. Visit wt.buzz/SB57props for all the details.